Hello again. So on to the next thing. As I said in the last video, I'm going to redo the front and rear heaters for various reasons. Basically get reconditioned heater cores, matrices for the heaters, front and rear. So P5 and P5B, I think P5 anyway. I'm not sure what if it was in from launch, but certainly this car's got a rear heater, separate heater matrix core, two pipes going under the car from the engine with coolant in them circulating, and then its own rear fan, and there's a fan control in the rear. I'll show you sometime. So the rear fan has never worked in this car. The rear heater, I've never actually checked whether it's working, but because the fan doesn't work anyway, I need to rebuild the fan. So I'm going to remove the whole unit from under the seat. I'll show you that in a minute. First thing I've just done is drain the coolant. I haven't drained all of the coolant. Basically, I've just cut the pipes that are under the car and drained. There's only about, you probably can't see, but there's only about 3 centimeters in the bottom of the bowl come out, which is basically, I guess, what's just in the pipes, because the front of the pipes is quite at a high level. So I've just cut the pipes. I don't know if you can see, some of these look, well, I don't know, original possibly. This was going up, there are two pipes that go up through the bottom of the car under the seat to where into the heater core. This was one of them. Very cracked, the hose. So this definitely needed replacing, because if this splits as you're going along, you lose a lot of the coolant from the engine, and you don't know it's gone because it's under the car until the engine starts heating up. Pretty rusty clips, so I'm going to be replacing them with stainless steel ones. That's one. You may be able to see the pipe again. I'll show you in a minute. This is one of the, I think this is an original pipe. The other pipe is newer, but I'm going to replace them both, because although that main pipe is newer, actually where it joins to the heater core is looking pretty old. Not as old as that one, but still needs replacing, so I'm going to replace it all. So this is I think it was a kit, I can't remember, from Wadham's, but there's two main hoses that run from the engine to under the car, and then there are two elbows as well, which I think are to replace these. In fact that's not original, because I don't think that's an elbow, that's just a straight piece of hose because it's kinked. So we've actually got 90-degree elbows come out and connect to the main hoses. So that's what I am in the process of doing. I'm going to remove the rear heater first, and then I'm going to remove the front one. The front one as well has aluminium pipes that the hoses connect to. There are 4, I think, pipes. I've got stainless steel replacements. I think these were from the owners club. Not cheap, but the aluminium can corrode, so I thought I'd replace with stainless steel. That seems to be the theme on this car. So those are for a week, next week probably. But for now I want to get the rear heater in, so I'll just show you under the seat where the heater sits. Okay, so looking through the back door, you can see the back of the front seat. I've taken the trim off just to have a look what sort of condition that seat is in. The pressed steel frame looks pretty good, but the foam is degrading, and I think there may be something wrong with the frame, so that's the future. But for now, hopefully you can see. Let me just bring in some light. Okay, that's better. So this is the rear heater matrix and fan. Hang on, need another hand. So when I got the car, these wires were disconnected. I'm actually not totally sure. I need to figure out the wiring as we go. This wiring is coming from the switch, and it goes underneath the car to the fan motor. So it's coming back up into the fan motor. So I'm not actually sure what these are for, unless it's the resistor for, because there's two fan speeds. I don't know, I need to figure that out as we go. So there's a brown yellow and brown black, and there's a brown yellow and black earth going to the motor. So yeah, I need to figure that out, whether it's the resistor for the 2-speed fan. Could be, but I don't know. Anyway, so we'll figure that out. But this is the unit. I think it's bolted in 2 places, and then you may be able to see there's vents that come out in the rear kick plate, I think that's called. There's one hose there and one hose there going off to the other side. So you know, you get warm air coming out onto your feet, the back of your legs and feet, which, if it works, will be nice. And you know, so I think I've heard of some people disconnecting these heaters because the risk of the hoses splitting. You know, for me, it's part of the charm of having an old car that you kind of get these things working. So I certainly plan to get this working. So I've just connected the 2 hoses underneath the car. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm just going to unbolt this now, and then hopefully, if we can get those hoses off, it'll lift out. I assume the core is in here and the fan is there. It's kind of odd because this is the air inlet for the fan, so it's drawing air from under the seat, which you would think there's not that much airflow under the seat. There's no, I can't see any grill or anything like that, so it's just pulling air from under the seat and then blowing it out into the footwell. So I would think, I don't know, we'll see how much airflow you get. We'll know that when it's working. This is a Smith's, if you can see that code, Smith's FHR 2, what's that, 2316, there you go. You may be able to see that now. Which I think was a fairly standard heater unit. I'll look in the Smith's catalogue, but I think it was a fairly standard heater unit. I don't know what other cars, if any, it was used on, but as you can see, it's not in terrible state. I mean, there is some rust, and I guess, you know, water could accumulate under the seat and start rusting the frame. So when we get it out, it'll be interesting to see how good or bad a state it's in. Yeah. So I'll just show you under the car. Okay, this could get a bit shaky. I'm lying on my back under the car. So this is the one connection to the heater matrix under the seat. I've taken the hose off, and the elbow comes around and then connects to the main hose. So that's one. The other one is there. Same deal, you get a 90-degree elbow, or use the 90-degree elbow and then connect to the main hose. So one's obviously inlet outlet. I'm not sure it matters which way around, we'll find out. This is the wire, or 2 wires. So this is where it was disappearing under the seat, and then it's coming to, if you can see that, this is the fan motor here, which is covered in underseal, aftermarket underseal. So those 2 wires are going into the motor. So the motor's pretty exposed under the car, Don't know how well it's sealed. We'll find that out as well. So obviously these are going to the motor, these two wires. This is the black, which is the earth, and the, I think, brown yellow. And then there's those other two wires going into where the matrix is, which I don't know what they do there. I'm assuming that they are the resistor for the 2-speed fan. So yeah, so I've removed those two elbows from the inlet and outlet. Now I'm going to unbolt the heater unit from under the seat. Hopefully it will lift out. This is, as you can see, you may be able to see just about, so this motor should lift out with the heater unit. So I have to pull those wires out, yeah, let's see how we go. Hopefully it will lift out. These heater inlet and outlet, actually I was pleasantly surprised that they are in pretty good condition. I don't know if they're aluminium, but anyway, they're in pretty good condition. So let's get under the rear seat and unbolt the unit and see if it'll lift out, and I'll pull this cable out. Right, so there's a bolt here and there's a bolt that side. I think that I thought there were nuts, like captive nuts, welded to the chassis, the floor pan. I have a feeling that one, someone's tried to undo that before, and the captive nut has broken away from the floor pan. Okay, so the captive nuts for these aren't actually welded to the chassis or the floor pan. They're in like a steel little cage, and then the cage, there's a nut in a cage, and then the cage is welded to the floor pan. I guess that allows a bit of movement in the nut, but the cage isn't particularly strong, and so the nut started spinning in the cage. I think it's like a square nut, and the metal is folded around to grip it, and because this is a bit stiff, the nut has bent the cage. So I've put some mole grips on there, on this one, so hopefully, well, it's definitely not spinning the nut now. Okay. There you go, a nut, slightly rusty nut. Not really surprising, having spent 50 years under a car. Yeah, so that will lift out then. So I just need to do the same with this one. Just need to just make sure there's not a nut. No nuts at the back now. So I just need to grip the nut that's spinning on the underside of the car for this bolt, and then hopefully we can get that bolt out and lift the unit out. This one grips under the car now, and it's coming out. Oh, there you go, it's coming out. So those cages that are holding these nuts are pretty weak. Or holding the nuts underneath the car are pretty weak, so I may chisel them off and just put a nut and bolt there. I guess it made assembly easier in the factory. You didn't have to have someone holding the nut underneath, but 50 years on, not so great. Okay, so I think that will, lift out. And get these hoses off. One. I'm assuming that hose is loose. Feels like whether it's just the motor is stuck down with so much under seal. I feel like there's something else holding it. I definitely can't see. Tell you what, let's get this cover off. There are just screws holding the lid on. There's not a lot of clearance, so see if these really stubby screwdrivers will. Very short screws. I have a feeling this is meant to be assembled on a bench, but let's see if we can get the lid off and see if there's anything else holding it down. And then, last one I think. That doesn't feel like a screw. Whoa. Yeah. Okay, hang on. Okay, let's look inside. It's not pretty. Rather a lot of rust. This is the heater core, which maybe that will lift out separately. Yeah, this is the resistor for the 2-speed fan that's just floating around. Well, the fan does spin. Hang on, let's bring some light. So the fan is spinning, but there's a lot of actually a lot of it's just very light, very surface rust, but there's a lot of it. So I don't think, I thought it had gone actually through the bottom, but I don't think it has. It's just there's tons of it. So, sorry. There you go. See all of it inside. They're not very pretty. It all needs reconditioning, obviously, and that heater core looks pretty shot. So this, yeah. So this lifts out separately, maybe. I'm just going to put you in the stand. You can see. Whoa, oh, still water in it. So that's the matrix, the heater matrix or the core. I think copper, isn't it? Because there's the green corrosion on it. don't know how well you can see, sorry, the lighting's not very good. Definitely worth replacing that. As I say, I'm not aware it's been leaking, but given the amount of rust inside, I would suggest it hasn't been totally watertight. So I'm going to get that sent off to Wadham's and get a reconditioned one. And then in here, I think that is a screw. Don't know where that resistor should be. 2.2 ohms, 2 point something ohms. I'll have to look in the parts book to see where that should, whether that looks like it might have been riveted down somewhere. So somewhere there might be some holes. Okay, well, interesting. Still can't figure out what's holding that end down. Unless the motor screws from, it's a metal bladed fan. Maybe the motor, you have to unscrew the motor and take it out. I thought the motor would come out with this unit up. Maybe we have to unscrew the motor and drop it down the bottom. So I'm going to have a look at that and probably just put some releasing fluid on the screws for now. Yeah, that seems held down by these nuts, so I'm assuming you unscrew these from inside, from underneath the car. Well, there you go. I've had that open since I bought the car, and I'm glad I've opened it, because definitely needs a lot of cleaning up and repainting and a new core. Alright, so I'm going to probably stop there for now. I'll have a look at the screws and we'll bring you back when we have a bit more progress. I'm going to leave that for a bit, if a day or two, have another look, and then see how we can get this out, because it needs a good soak in rust remover, rust converter, and then re-spraying and the motor doing and everything. And need to figure out, I think the actual lug, the one lug, has actually rusted away on the resistor. So I'm not sure what state the resistor is. So yeah, so at least we know these, so the two wires under the car go to the motor, and then these are for the resistor, so these must be going to the switch, I think, something like that, or being switched into the wire for the motor. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I checked in the workshop manual, and the motor is actually attached to this, and this should lift out. So these screws here are just holding the motor to this tray. They're not going through the bodywork. But apparently there is like a butyl mastic or seal or something, which makes sense between around this hole in the bottom of the car. So I'm guessing that's what's holding this in place. There's no other bolts. I've removed the two bolts, so there's nothing else holding it down. So what I'm going to do, because I can't pull it out, it's pretty well stuck down, and I don't want to bend the this heater housing. I'm going to try and push the motor from underneath the car with a scissor jack. I'm not sure if that's going to work. I don't want to damage the motor housing, but I can't see any other way of. As I say, I'm going to bend this if I try and lift it out. So I'll leave that running, I'll just try and put some light on things, and it's not very good light. Okay, so I'm going to try and push the motor with a scissor jack from underneath. I don't know how well this is going to work, but there's only one way to find out. This is the rear seat pan. This is underneath the rear seat. This is the motor, the heater fan motor. This is the cable that goes to the back into the under the seat and connects to the switch. So this motor is, as you can see, it's so gummed up with try and give you the best side, so gummed up with underseal and all sorts. So I'm going to try and push this up and out. These are the nuts. Oh, I can't quite see it, can you? Okay, these are the nuts that were holding down the heater. There's one there and there's one just over there. These are holding the heater tray down, and these are what was spinning. They're in like a captive cage, but it's quite thin. So because the nuts were rusty, or the bolts were rusty, the nuts were spinning. I don't know what I'm going to do about them yet. I could just reuse them as they are, or I could cut them off and put a stainless steel nut and bolt in. We'll see. But yeah, so this is what I'm going to try and push up on. I've sprayed penetrating fluid around it and left it a few days to see if it softens the mastic. It does a bit, but as I say, I think there's more inside that's sealing this against the floor pan. So I'm going to push on this part of the motor, I think. Yeah, that's not really much to push on there, so I may push on this. I don't want to push on the end cap, because that's where the commutator shaft is going to be under there, and a bearing. So I'll try and push on this part, and we'll see. Right, so I'm going to leave you in the car while I go underneath to try and push this up. So let's see if you'll be able to see before me if this works or not. If not, I'm not quite sure what plan B is. See the floor pan moving a little bit. Aha. I can see the motor going up. And I can hear. Let's have a look. Okay, that's coming up. I'm going to just move the jack to the other side of the motor and push from that side. Jack lined up. So I think this this underfloor heater was introduced in the Mark III. I don't think the Mark I P5 and Mark II had this heater, from what I read. So it was introduced in the Mark III, which was, I think, 1964. So the original car just had the front heater, and then this rear heater was added, and they carried it on for the P5B in '67. So there we go, that's going up. And there's all sorts of under seal stuck to it. Hang on. So there's the motor and the heater tray. Pretty rusty, but and it wasn't very thick metal to start with. So we'll have to see how that cleans up. That's one. Yeah, and this actually a foam seal around it. It's not mastic, but I think it was, there's a very old under seal. So yeah, this is a foam seal, so I'll remake that. It's an interesting kind of idea in a way, having I guess it was the only way they could fit the motor in. It's not ideal having a hole in the floor and trying under the seat and trying to seal it. I think this is just, I think that's actually, this is, the sound deadening, I think. So this rust is actually, I think, off the heater housing, rather than being the floor pan. It's difficult to tell. Try and get some more light. So the matrix has foam seals as well around it, the inlet and outlet for the heater matrix. So they have grey foam seals. I think there's one under the rust. So as I say, this rust is actually off the heater, the heater housing. So there's a seal there. They're just bolt holes. So there's 3 foam seals. So obviously they need sealing pretty well, because you don't want water coming up into under the under seat area, because that won't end well. The other things, I guess, that you can see, there's a lot of sound deadening under here, which I'm not going to disturb. It's in fairly good condition. This moquette needs replacing, really. This is obviously mainly hidden under the rear seat, but as you can see, this is rust staining on it. As I said, when the front door trim pockets, the front door pockets, are covered in this moquette as well. And when I bought the car, it had some of this rust staining on it. I thought it was just dirt, but actually it is rust staining coming up through the metal underneath. So really that needs taking off. The metal needs, any rust needs treating and painting, and then new moquette putting on. You can still get this moquette. Wadham sell it. probably, I don't know, a fairly standard thing. So I don't know, I may do that now. It's not too difficult to do at a different time because you just lift the seat out. So I think focus on the heater is probably best. So these are the wires, if you can see them. Don't know if you can. These come from the switch between for the rear passenger, for the fan. I think that may be, I don't know what that is. That may be for the illumination. But otherwise, I think that's a success. I need to clear all this up, and then I'm going to start taking the front heater apart, and then I'll recondition the heater boxes on the workbench.